Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I want to talk about what I would like to see added to Raid in 2024. We've just come off the back of a pretty good January patch, I think. Generally January patches are quite weak, there's not much in them, but we actually had the introduction of Chaos Dust and a lot of different quality of life things. I actually think Chaos Dust is going to be a very big thing once we start farming. But with the recent introduction of the Cursed City of Sintranos and a bunch of different things that have been going on in the game, I think we need to have a bit of a review and look at what we would like to see to improve the overall game in 2024. So I'm going to be looking at three topics in general. I'll be looking at the economy, which is generally things like the currency acquisition, how much it costs to use those currencies, what do we get for that spend, where do we acquire different things, those sorts of things in terms of the economy. Then I want to actually look at the game modes and how we can improve and develop the game modes. And then finally, I just want to look at the champion quality in terms of where is the champion strength at, how we manage in champion builds and overall sort of stat distribution, champion roles, those sorts of things. So let's talk about the economy first. It's probably the most pressing conversation to have right now because of Sintranos. I myself am in a similar position to most other people where pushing these hard stages of Sintranos is not just difficult, it's expensive. It is so silver intensive to build champions for these different stages because you're using champions you wouldn't normally use, right? I don't typically have a Morag built. I don't typically have a Fodbar built. You can see I've been working on them to do this particular stage. Same as this area here. I don't particularly use my 6-star Boltsmith anymore. I did it for content, but now I'm going to need to use him for this content. So it is expensive to do because of the silver swapping cost and also the general inflation in the economy in terms of events and the things we've had to do. So the first thing I would like them to do is fix the silver economy fundamentally once and for all. And we can do this without necessarily dramatically changing the way that we get silver, because I think a lot of the concerns and feedback that I've seen people say is like, well, they can't change like free regearing because it would imbalance the economy. So whilst we can't just do that instantly, we can do some adjustments. I think the first thing we should do, and I've been advocating this for some time now, is with some sets that come from campaign, like life, offense, defense, these sets come with a campaign sell penalty, right? Because originally when the game was developed, they probably didn't want people generating lots of silver from all of these campaign sets they would be running over and over again, right? The amount of curing shields we've sold over the years, they probably balanced the economy around that. But the game has moved on since then. But at the same time, we don't necessarily want to make silver gain in campaign insane, right? We don't want to make it so crazy that's all you need to do. So what I'm suggesting they should do here is remove the campaign sell penalty from quality of rarity and above. So that means in campaign, you pretty much only get common and uncommon. You can get rare a little bit in Nightmare, but it's quite low chance. Drop the penalty for selling on the rare and above. Because what that will do is it will make Ice Golem and Dragon an equal silver gain to when we run Fire Knight. Right now, the difference is about 40 to 50% difference, right? You almost get half the amount of silver in Ice Golem, purely because you've got life, offense, defense, critical rate, and retaliation, right? And resistance. You've got 6 of the 9 sets here are exclusively in campaign. And then here you've got far less, which means that the silver penalty that you pay is much lower. So if we remove that, that means we can run any of these dungeons and get the same amount of silver. That will give us a bit more silver whilst not inflating the economy insanely. The other thing I would do is instantly halve the amount of gear swapping costs is associated. Right now, if I want to remove a 6-star legendary piece, it costs me 100,000 silver. And if I want to remove it off my existing champion, that's 200,000 silver. So if I want to swap one piece from one equipped to another piece with it, which is equipped, we're talking 200,000. 1.4 million to swap a build is way too expensive. Instantly halve it automatically, so that when I take a legendary item off, it's 50,000. Does it fundamentally solve the problem? No. Should we have free regearing? Possibly. However, just removing and adding free regearing is probably a bit of a bigger change, and it would need to be a bit of a review, because if you're going to take 1.4 million silver out of the economy, that is a bit of an issue. So just halving it instantly would be a great help now that we've got a lot more regearing we have to do in Sintranos. Because the fundamental thing that you deny when you have such a high cost is fun. Because what I actually want to do is I want to try and beat these stages. I want to experiment, but my fun and experimentation comes at a cost, and that cost is extreme. We're talking, you could spend 20 million trying to beat one stage just by trying different things, then you run out of silver and you can't carry on, which is what's happened here. I've beaten a few stages, but to beat 7, I need to regear about 4 different champions. To beat 13, I need to regear a few other champions. And then when we get to 14 and 19 is much more challenging. So in order to do it, I need silver, and I've had to farm silver just for silver's sake. So if we can do those two things, that will help significantly with the silver. And then I would also say we need to stop inflating artifact enhancements in fusions. They've gone up by about 30% in the last 9 months, and we have to do 3 of them per fusion. So every fusion, every month, we have to dedicate 60 million silver just to do the artifact enhancement events. And 9 times out of 10, you end up upgrading artifacts you don't actually need to upgrade sometimes because you've got too much you need to do. So we probably need to look at freezing the inflation in its current situation for the time being. So those 3 things will help the silver economy. And then I think you need to review the situation and see how players feel after you've made those changes. The other thing I would also do is schedule a regular free weekend for regearing. And I would do it 1 week after the Cintranos rotation starts, because they did a free regearing event for the start of Cintranos, but by the time I needed it, it was over. It took me about a week to get up to Soul Cross. By the time I got to Soul Cross, it was over. So started a week into Cintranos, and it's on a weekend so that people have access to play. Let them know it's on a schedule so people can predict and plan for it. And that will help manage the economy. You're not changing the numbers here, you're just giving a window in which people can save a bit of silver and optimize their gameplay. Now, a couple of other currencies I would like to see improved. I would absolutely like to see the gold bars reduced in terms of the number of times you have to fight, drop it down to 5, double the amount of gold bars so that we can save time. That would be a very big deal so that we get less of these tokens a day. You're not changing the amount of gold bars I earn, you're just adjusting the economy for time here. That would be really important. The other big thing that we're talking about in terms of economy is the soul stones. We simply don't earn enough material to make the market better. What they should do is exactly what they did with Chaos Dust. This essence isn't in replacement, it is in addition. And I would say it has a 25% to 30% chance to give me an essence, right? You've got 4 to 6, 3 to 5, so you've got different options here. Every time I run stage 15, I should have a 1 in 4 chance that I'm going to get essence on top of my soul coins. So I can start working towards a reasonable amount of essence to use in this market. I've never really been above 100 of this tier 2 essence, and I do Iron Twins every day since the launch of Cintranos. And you can see I've got barely any essence. It takes you far too long. I need 300 of this to get a 6-star legendary soul. It's too much. It's like 7 to 9 months worth of grinding just to get 1 soul on 1 champion. It is too aggressive. I think just adding it more in, increase the availability by 20%, 25%. And if they apply the dust methodology here, I think that would make Iron Twins much more desirable for people to farm. I know a lot of people have said remove the energy cost. It's different activities. I think just in the first instance, can we fix the essence and acquisition? I think the currencies are okay. It would be nice to get more stones, but I've been farming since the Heroes Path, which was about a week or 2 ago. And I'm already up to 33 stones and 1 Immortal Soul Stone from the daily login. So I feel like you do get a decent amount. You get a lot from events and things, but that could be improved. So that's the main thing about the economy. I would like to see some like reduction in the amount of keys that we've got going on, like with so many different currencies and different tokens. We can somehow combine these down a little bit. I would absolutely love to get 26 crypt keys if possible, so that we could run 3 stage 20s rather than 220 and 19. That always feels really bad. I don't know what we can do about that. But that kind of feeds into then game modes. This is the second part I want to talk about. How can we improve the fundamental game modes in Raid? Well, the first thing I want to talk about is Doom Tower. I think Doom Tower is one of the best game modes in the game. It's one of the most fun things to do. It's a great progression state. It gives you a lot of rewards. It's very good to do. But the biggest problem as you start doing it more and more is you start becoming selective over the sets that you want. I particularly don't care about any other set other than Lethal. That's the only set I really want. And it becomes a bit of a problem that I'm only able to farm Lethal once every 3 months. So I get 4 months in the 12 months to actually farm the set that I actually want. Whereas things like the Borgoth or the Griffin, they're in 2 different rotations, so you get double the amount of uptime. So whilst you can't actually add more rotations, because if you add, say, another Lethal rotation, well, you might not get back to Sorath for 4 months. It creates the problem, you're just moving the problem to a different boss. What I would like them to see them do is in the Forge here, have the ability, specifically just for the Doom Tower sets, to swap and exchange the materials for the materials that I want. I've got 3,000 feathers here. Let me swap 3,000 to the lethal materials, but at half the rate, right? So instead of me going a 1-to-1 swap, it would be a 2-to-1 swap. So it's still not as rewarding to farm lethal when it's in rotation, but I can swap my feathers here that I don't need, that I haven't even crafted because I don't have so much guardian I don't need anymore, into the lethal gear that I really want. You don't have to change the mode, but that gives me more reasons to farm the high-end bosses. One of the things I heard was the reason why we changed the quest here to not have the silver keys is people weren't using the silver keys. Well, it's probably because most people won't use it unless it's lethal, because the other sets, they've been power crept by Stone Skin, Protection, we've got, Righteous, we've got Defiant, we've got Bolster. These other sets you've added are more powerful, so people don't really care anymore for Bloodthirst, Frostbite, Fatal, Untouchable. When it gets to the, I'm almost certain that if you looked at the analytics, the lethal farming would be super high. Everyone would be using their silver keys every day. So just give us the option to convert our pre-existing materials from other bosses to the boss that we want on a rate of like 2 to 1. So it's not exactly like 1 to 1 rate. That would just mean that I can still do my keys, I can still farm the boss, but I can get some value out of doing it on every rotation. When it comes to clan boss, I would love to see them add a Uber mode, like an Ultra Nightmare, because I feel like Ultra Nightmare now we've kind of solved. You can see I do 218 million, and I would like to see them implement leaderboards, right? Not the way they did Hydra Clash, but leaderboards in terms of performance. So you can actually put yourself into the leaderboard and you get like maybe an extra chance at some more cruel gear or something, nothing crazy, but just having some reason to push higher damage. Because I see a lot of my clan boss videos and people go, oh, well, once you hit 71 million, what's the point? You're just wasting resources, you're just wasting this. And to me, it's because I enjoy clan boss, but I understand and agree with them. There's no value in me pushing 218 million, absolutely zero value at all, but it's fun to do. So if we added an Uber mode, which gave us sort of more rewards at like 150 million, just as a progression state, and then added leaderboards so that you get bonus rewards. Dragonair do this very well, where they have a temporal vortex boss. If you place in the top 50%, for example, then you walk away with some seasonal rewards and extra rewards for your account. I think they can do something similar here. Maybe top 10 gives you like guaranteed mythical cruel gear or something like that, just so that there's a reason to do it. And then you get some energy. And the key difference here between Hydra Clash and this would be that everyone gets something as long as they place on the leaderboard. As long as you hit the minimum, you should be on the leaderboard. So like 50% and lower get something, then the top 25%, the top 10%, the top 5%. That's what I'm suggesting. Just to make Clan Boss a little bit more fun and interesting, and not so I can just put my 6-star Man-Eater in and it does 25 million damage on his own, which is what it feels like, right? My Seeker does about 35 to 40 million damage on his own, which is near enough all of that Transcendent chest. So it would just make Clan Boss a bit more modernized. You wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. You could literally just put a difficulty mode to increase its difficulty, maybe change its defense numbers, attack numbers, whatnot, make it harder. I'm not really sure how you would do it, but basically a way to increase the points, and then have the leaderboards where, you know, the higher damage, the more rewards you get. That would be really fun. That leads me on to Hydra Clash. How would we fix this? We need to balance champions. That's a whole nother topic. I don't really want to get into champion balance here, otherwise I'll get accused of wanting to nerf every champion. But fundamentally, the only thing they really need to change right now, immediately, is give rewards for 4th and 5th. Make it so that even if you don't get top chest or top 3, you still get something towards your contribution, right? You can scale it so that the number 1 gets the best chest. But why can't number 5 get this chest? There's no reason why they can't, right? So just, you've got plenty of chests here. Just move the chest down so that clans are finishing position 4 and position 5 still get something for their efforts. If you do that, then I think Hydra Clash immediately becomes less of a negative aspect for people, because right now they feel like they absolutely have to go ham, because if they don't finish in the top 3, they get nothing. And then you'll start seeing clans do what we're kind of doing a little bit, which is like, well, we do want to get the top spot, so we might as well just like lose this one, because if we can't guarantee ourselves 2nd and 3rd, we'll waste a lot of our time, and just go for the top one next time, right? Try and figure out the matchmaking a little bit. If you just give rewards for 1 to 5, that would be much better. Obviously, champion balance is a bigger issue. I don't really want to talk about that, because that is just going to lead us down a rabbit warren. So those are the 2 things I would fix with the clan boss. It'd be cool if we had a 3rd clan boss, but I think you have to fundamentally fix the first 2 before you add a 3rd one right now. I think the Cursed City of Cintranos is fine, but the economy is what defines the success of Cintranos more than anything else, and making sure you don't really have these like these ultra silly kind of things. That's what we don't want to have, these ultra silly stages where you need some extremely narrow champions. It can be done. I didn't think it could be done when it first came out, but you can see it's very difficult. I think only about, let's see, how many people in the world now? We're nearing the end of the rotation. How many people in the world have completed Synchronous Hard? We've got over 50, so it's improved as people have been sort of last minute. It was about 20 the other day. So, you know, is it impossible? No. Is it really hard? Potentially. And do you want to scale your content around just the one person? Probably not. So I'm absolutely fine with the difficulty if you fix the economy. If you don't fix the economy, Synchronous is going to become very negative very quickly as people realize next rotation, you've got a whole new set of restrictions and you're going to have to re-gear a whole new bunch of champions. And every single month they cost you 100 million. You know, most people don't have the luxury in Soul Cross of building a champion and leaving the champion alone. You normally need your best gear in Soul Cross. And to do that, it's going to cost you silver. So I just think the economy is the main success or fail. If we can absolutely fix some of these rewards for normal, this chest is awful. I don't know who designed this chest for normal difficulty, but it is awful. You get so little. You get basically less than a single day of playing the game for completing the entirety of Synchronous Normal. Just double the odds and double the quality. That's all I would care. Like, give us 8 rewards and maybe it's 4 glyphs per slot, just so it's a bit better. Because really, finishing the entire Synchronous should feel more rewarding than 150 energy or 200,000 silver. It just feels really bad. When I looked at the chest, it's almost like forgettable. The actual per stage rewards are better than the finishing reward, which is crazy. But generally, these rewards are good. Carnage looks like he's going to be absolutely broken strong. So in terms of Curse City, I think it's okay. I think in 3 months, you might want to consider a harder mode, but we'll have to see how the restrictions work. I don't think you can add a harder mode without the economy fix. That's my key thing. And finally, the last few things I want to cover is Arena. One thing that I would love to see in 2024 is move away from ladder-based arenas and look at a tournament bracket arena. A way for players to enter a bracket in which you fight other players and then you complete the bracket. Because the biggest problem with Arena right now is they're all ladder-based, and no matter what you do, the whales will always be on top. Simply put, that's just how the reality of ladder-based tournaments work. If you had bracketed tournaments, it would feel a bit better because players can put themselves into a bracket that's more closer to their range and they can walk away with feeling like they're the best player without actually having to fight the Krakens, if that makes sense. You can still win within your tournament bracket, but you're not necessarily like, oh, well, they've got a 6-star terrace, there's no hope, which is what a lot of Arena feels like. I do think that some of the Arena balance, again, is mainly down to champion balance, but I think Live Arena is kind of like okay. Classic is okay, Tag is okay. I would like to see them improve the economy of the Arena, give you more rewards that actually matter in Arena, but I don't really want to get in that. The key thing I wanted to say about Arena was we want tournament brackets so that actually it feels more like I'm actually fighting in a limited time event rather than just going in doing Live Arena today and doing a bit of tag team. Generally then I think the dungeons are okay. I think it might be interesting to explore a hard mode faction wars. Glyphs are still very powerful, they're still hard to get, so a hard mode faction wars could be quite interesting to explore if they wanted to do it. Certainly a challenge there. Hard mode dungeons, maybe they go up to stage 15. We'll have to see how that scaling works. I would definitely love to see less 5-star gear and more 6-star gear in these dungeons. So if we did have more hard mode dungeons, I would want to see more of that. So that's kind of like where I'm at with the game modes. I think overall, I'm just looking to see more like challenges rather than more dungeons, right? I don't want to just have more content that I have to beat. I'd rather have content that challenges me to beat the opponents. Clan boss leaderboards. Hydra Clash actually feels like it's rewarding for everyone who takes part, just not the ones that win with a Trunder. And Doom Tower that actually allows me to farm and get the rewards that I want. If we can fix those few things, I think it would be a lot more healthier. Fix the economy as well, because that is what is inhibiting a lot of fun in these game modes, is it always comes back to I don't have enough silver. It's not about the energy, I just don't have enough silver. Now, one thing I do quickly want to talk about, which I should have mentioned in the economy part, is about the energy cap. Is it time in 2024 for us to increase the energy cap from 130? I'm on the fence about it. I don't actually think we're limited for energy. I think we get a lot per day. And with the recent addition of Synchronous, you're getting a lot more energy in terms of like some of the stages gives you a lot more energy. I think you get like 1,500 a month, maybe 2,000 a month. So you are getting more energy for free, essentially, if you can beat those stages. So should it increase? I could see a warranted increase to 140, but you've got to understand, like, changing this energy cap is a huge change for the economy. It makes every 40 gem refill more efficient because now I'm getting 140 per refill, not 130 per refill. That has a big impact over the overall economy. You're also able to get like more everything, every single refill you get for free. This is now 10 energy more. This is now 10 energy more when you finish this refill. There's not a refill, so that's fine. All the shop purchases, this is 10 energy more, so I'm getting an extra 20 here. So you're probably going to give people an extra refill in weekly quests, plus anything you buy from the gems and other things. So is it warranted? I could see it with the introduction of Iron Twins Shogun. If they want us to farm more of this Chaos Dust as well, that's going to be more expensive. But it just depends where you put your energy. I don't put a lot of my energy into dungeon farming. It goes into the Sand Devil and Iron Twins. So another player might not be doing Sand Devil and Iron Twins, but want to do dungeon farming. It just depends where it goes. So let's just talk about champion design and champion balance a little bit. In terms of where I would like to see them go for like fusions and new champions, I think we still need more Veil champions. I still think we need more block buffed champions. We need more champions with block passive skills, and we need more champions to deal with blessings more than anything else. I would like to see some champions introduced that counter some of these very powerful blessings that kind of prohibit you from playing. Things like a Romantu style champion that goes, we ignore polymorph, would be so much more powerful. That is the type of champions you need to introduce to change the meta, not a few champions here that hit quite hard or do a little bit of damage here or maybe do some clever little thing. So for example, let's take a look at like someone like Gwendolyn, right? Great new champion they added, very interesting, very curious, does an extra turn, does a few things, but in all reality, doesn't actually improve the champion balance or the champion availability in any way, shape or form. It doesn't have any impact on the arena meta because it can't counter Taras or Marichka at all. It doesn't really go into the realms of like, does it give me a Veil? No. Does it give me a block buffs? No. It doesn't really give me many features for Hydra, really, apart from an AoE decrease speed and leech. It's kind of like that Romantu style feeling to it. So yes, it's a decent champion. It hits quite hard. These types of champions are always fun to have because they can do some unique things, but they don't fundamentally change the way the game works. And they've been talking about the reasons they haven't nerfed a champion is because they want to introduce newer champions that can define and change the meta. These types of champions are not going to do it. You need to have much more defined champions. People like Crixia can change the meta. She's in arena defenses a lot more now because you can't lock her out. So she actually acts as a counter to certain things. So maybe in 2024, we're going to see more of those champions. I know they work on 6-month pipelines, but predominantly what I would like to see them add is block buffs, Veil champions that give you more utility for your team, like increased speed AoE champions. There's still not that many of them. Those style of champions that they should be focusing on, and not just, hey, I do damage. That's just not, there's so many champions in the game now that does, hey, I just do damage. We want them to fill these sort of very, very light roles, very roles that you don't have a lot of, especially with the Cursed City and Centranos, where some of those restrictions are highlighting gaps in options, big gaps. So that's what I would like to see. I don't really want to get into like which champions need to be balanced, rebalanced. The one thing I will say is we have news and confirmation that they are looking at rebalancing a number of existing champions, and I would like to see that happen a lot more. Fortis is obviously on the list. Fundamentally, all they need to do with Fortis is actually make this do 10% damage, not 2% damage. That means multiply the final damage, not multiply the multiplier. They need to do that with him. And they also need to give him some use on a boss, because bosses are all immune to fear. And if he can't use fear, he can't activate his astral terrors and he just falls apart. He's just basically a bot on bosses. A little bit like the other champion here they've talked about, which is Angar. Angar's another one of these. He's a bit old, so he has very limited kit. And again, if he gets going, he's great. He provokes a lot. But if you can't provoke, he does nothing. He's absolutely useless. So they need to give him more. This guy probably needs a complete conceptual rework a little bit to get him into some sort of viable meta as a Void Legendary. So I'd love to see them do more of these, keep focusing on also epic champions, some of them that are just subpar that need a bit of a rework. I'm thinking of champions like Grunch, for example. He's meant to help bomb champions, but he just doesn't do anything. So if he can do stuff like activate bombs, that would be great, right? Give him something that can initiate an activation of bomb to make him more useful. Epic champions shouldn't be ignored in the rebalancing. So there you go, guys. That is my wish list for 2024. There's many things I could go on for hours on hours. Blessing reworks. This marketplace needs a rework. We know about this, but pretty much quality of life, I think, is going to be low on the totem pole for a while. Some of these big ticket items, they have to fix the economy. That's the thing I really think is most important right now. It's the biggest pain point that I see from a lot of the community, a lot of people that send me messages. A lot of the frustration about Centranos isn't about the difficulty. It's about, I don't want to spend the silver. I don't have the silver available. And that is a big There's a big problem. It reduces the fun. Let me know, guys, in the comments below what you think should change in 2024. What is the big pain points for you? What things do you want to see? What things would excite you in Raid? Maybe we can get this sort of fed back to Plarium and they can put it into their 6-month pipeline for the latter half of the year. But by the sounds of it, they've already got everything planned out. So this is really me kind of going, I hope some of the things that we're talking about here are in the wish list, because if they're not, you know, it could be a bit of a rough year. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, I tend to do these like dev diary / conceptual ideas every now and then. If you like these kind of videos, hit the thumbs up. That tells me it's worth watching, it's worth doing in the future. And yeah, if you like the video as well, remember to subscribe if this is the first time you're here. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up and all that kind of YouTubey stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.